Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this introduction to the Partners in Wellbeing program. My name is Tenille, and I am the Geelong Chamber's dedicated mental health clinician/consultant. Before we begin today, I would like to acknowledge the Wurrung people, who are the traditional owners of the land on which I stand today. And also acknowledge all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Greater Geelong community. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and the hope of their people. I would also like to thank the Chamber's Platinum partner, Pixel, and also say thanks to our gold and silver partners who are noted here in these slides. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty brief information session, just a quick introduction into the Partners in Wellbeing program, what it is and what it offers. So the Partners in Wellbeing program is a state government initiative that's being delivered in partnership with the community services organisations ACSO, NEMI and EACH. Out of this program has grown the Small Business Wellbeing program, and now alongside organisations such as Financial Counselling Victoria and the Melbourne Innovation Centre and peak bodies such as the Geelong Chamber, the program is now delivering crucial wellbeing support services to business owners, their staff and their family members. Now I'm going to do this a little bit backwards. So firstly, I'm going to talk about why the program's in place, and then I'm going to talk about the specific services that we're providing. So to start, I've got a video here that's just going to describe the recent experiences that a small business owner has had as part of the COVID-19 pandemic.
My name's Dan Thorne. I run Orange Elephant Productions. It's a video communications and AV design business. Been going about six and a bit years now, and it's basically just myself and my kit. The pandemic this year really hit me straight between the eyes. I went from having a couple of really good years and looking like this was going to be yet another one. When it got announced, the government announcements came through at the end of March or middle of March, the job I was on basically stopped, and I lost about 50 grand's worth of work in a couple of days. And the ongoing lockdowns and other bits and pieces that happened meant that most of the stuff that I'd been pre-booked for the year got postponed or cancelled. Initially, you kind of go, I'll make this work, I'll figure this out, I'll find a way. But gradually, as the weeks wore on, I'll come into the office and there'll be less emails or more emails saying we're cancelling this or we're not sure whether this is going to be going on. You kind of lose contact with your clients. And it became harder and harder to almost get going because I'm in a bubble on my own. I didn't have anything to communicate with. I didn't know when the next job was going to come in. So personally, it ended up that I was losing sleep over it. It took me a number of days to realise I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't exercising, I was eating badly, I was just basically becoming a grump. And I couldn't go to my family and say, this is happening, this is how I feel, because I felt like I had to be in charge or the rock or like basically in control of what was going on and trying to make everything right. And I couldn't. But a wellbeing service would be a great help for sole traders or small business companies, or any company to be honest, but particularly for me it would be. I mean, there was a time that it took me 4 days to realise I wasn't sleeping, 4 nights. It was the 4th night staring at the ceiling that I suddenly realised that I'm not doing what I normally do. And I think if I could connect to a wellbeing service or a professional service, it would probably take a step to contact, but knowing something was there would definitely help. because you run out of ideas yourself. You think you're doing the right thing, and at the end of the day, if I needed help with my accounts, I'd go to an accountant. If I had a bad back, I'd go to a physio, sort of thing. So why not go and seek wellness out? Even if it's just a quiet chat about something.
So, at the end of the day, running a business in these very challenging times can take its toll on anyone's mental and physical well-being. It's really essential, especially at the moment, to be taking care of yourself. The feeling that you may have of being responsible for others, like staff or family members who are involved in the business, may significantly add to any stress that someone is feeling. And you can end up feeling really isolated, anxious, overwhelmed, and just like you're always on. So my first and most important message for everyone is that your well-being is important, and that you're worthy of making self-care a priority regardless of what's happening around you. So my next message is that being aware of, learning about, and being able to talk about mental health and well-being is also a business and a workplace issue. These statistics here are actually from before the pandemic began. So you can see there that 1 in 5 Australian workers are experiencing a mental health condition. And that absenteeism, presenteeism, and reduced productivity due to mental health was already costing Australian businesses dearly before the pandemic. However, and this is really key to know, mental health is not fixed. So it's often something that is conflated with the terms mental illness or a mental health condition. However, like physical health, mental health is something that we all have, and it varies in terms of fitness level, so to speak, depending on our internal and external circumstances. So mental health and wellbeing is definitely something that we can all work on and improve. So specifically, someone who is considered to be mentally healthy will usually demonstrate some of the following. They're able to experience positive emotions. They feel engaged, so be able to engage in activities and things that are of interest to them, and face challenges. They have positive relationships with the people around them, and they find meaning and purpose in the things that they're doing and in their lives. And they're also able to set and complete goals and tasks and be able to recognise the progress that they're making towards these. Conversely, someone who may be experiencing declining mental health may have difficulty concentrating and finding it really difficult to make decisions. You might be short-tempered or grumpy, feeling tired all the time, really fatigued, really struggling to sleep and slow down the thoughts, like experiencing quite racing or very fast thinking. Feeling unusually emotional or teary. Someone may drink alcohol more excessively than they would usually do to try and cope or deaden the feelings that they're experiencing. Or they might isolate themselves and become really socially distant and avoidant. So if anyone is experiencing these warning signs, or you're not coping with the many challenges of running a business at the moment in these particular times, we really want you to feel assured that help is available now. So I've got another video for you here, and I won't play the entirety of this video, but I do encourage anyone with an interest to watch it in your own time because it's really informative. I'll just need to jump into here.
Business, being a small business person, Leanne, you have recovered from a mental illness, and I know that you do a lot in the space now and assist others. Can you just tell us about your experience, what advice you'd give to small business?
Certainly. I think there's an awful lot of pressure on small business owners in particular, and when you consider that over 60% of all small businesses in Australia are actually sole operators, and sometimes we forget that because you see a business name and you think business, but in fact that business name is usually a single person. It might be the accountant who works at home doing your taxes once a year. It might be the hairdresser down the road. Could be the truck driver who contracts to Linfox and drives between Melbourne and Sydney every week. That's actually the small business person. And I think there's a lot of pressure nowadays for small business people to be a particular type of stereotype. And the reality is that we're not all going to be Richard Branson. And generally, small business is actually a lot of hard work, and we don't always share that, and we don't necessarily normalise that. So what that meant for me was when my business went through its time of struggle back in about 2011 or so, if my business in my eyes was failing, then I was a failure. Obviously, I'm not as good as everybody else, because what I hear about is the success stories and the glory of being an entrepreneur, resilient, tough at all times, able to solve all problems, rich, a go-getter, and I was struggling. So yes, I felt like I was the failure. I must be doing something wrong because everyone else is succeeding, when in fact I learned my experience, as you've mentioned, Georgie, was in fact a shared experience. We just don't talk about it enough in small business. And some of the signs that were triggers or red flags for me were I would cry on the way to work, and I would sit outside in my car and wipe my tears away and go, get it together, girl, you've got employees, because I've got to walk in and I've got to smile and go, hi, it's a great day today. Because as a small business owner, I'm actually exposed to all of these connections, my employees, my customers, my suppliers, my shareholders, my bank manager. If I'm not well, everybody's going to know. So the pressure was quite huge. So I actually got to the point where I could no longer work, and I ended up on the couch, unable to go to work. I was very fortunate. I had my husband, who's incredibly supportive, who went, look, let's swap roles. I'll go in, and I was so grateful for that, because he was the one who was able to help me get through that period. And once I sought out some help, and I was able to get myself back to work, then I really had to develop a back to work program for me as the owner. The employees had to get used to having me back. And how do you do that? So, and I went back to work on a part-time basis, on a casual basis, and worked myself up to being able to go back to work. And so I don't think that we always realise that there's so many facets to small business owners who do struggle with a mental disorder or a mental illness. That's quite a web, I guess, that you tend to be in the centre of. So.
And small business owners, sorry if I may, small business owners, of course, have invested so much in it. It's your baby, it's your idea, it's your dream, it's all of those things. So, I mean, the pressure, there's an implicit pressure in that, really,
I agree,
isn't there?
yeah. And there certainly is, and there's this wanting to tell the world I'm okay. I don't want to admit that I'm struggling, when in fact, for me, perhaps if I'd spoken up earlier and gone and sought treatment, I may not have had to have stopped work. I may have been able to work through that at work, because I had a great team of employees as well who loved me and loved the business, but I felt I had to live up to this stereotype of what an entrepreneur actually is, and that was my undoing, really. So.
Okay, so from my perspective, the most important takeaway from this story is that if you do start to notice signs of declining mental health within yourself, get support earlier rather than wait. early intervention is really strongly associated with better long-term outcomes and faster recovery rates. And although not all instances of poor mental health are going to escalate to a mental health condition or an actual mental health illness, if you find that any of these warning signs are carrying on for more than 2 weeks, and definitely if they're continuing for over a month, it's probably best to seek out some support. So, what supports are available through this wellbeing program? We have free psychosocial support and coaching, which is available through a dedicated helpline, access to business-related and personal financial counselling services, access to general business advisory services, and a dedicated mental health and wellbeing support person at 10 of the key peak bodies around the state, including myself here at the Geelong Chamber. Okay, so you should be able to see now the number here for the psychosocial helpline. The helpline was actually developed initially to be able to help anyone in the community who was struggling because of the COVID-19 pandemic or the lockdowns that came as a result of that. But you can note there that there is extended availability for business owners, for your staff and for family members, so that people in this category are able to seek support outside of the typical working hours if you need to. So the line itself is manned by experienced wellbeing professionals who are able to provide short-term mental health and wellbeing support and coaching, as well as facilitate referrals to the financial counsellors and to the business advisory services if need be. It's important to note the helpline is not a crisis service. So in a crisis, 000 or Lifeline should be contacted if you believe that there is someone maybe that is a risk to themselves or others. Most appropriate services for that. Next up is the dedicated peak body support at the Geelong Chamber. So myself. So what can I provide? Well, firstly, I'm able to provide short-term solution-focused interventions to individuals. And so this means that a session with myself would focus on things that are happening for someone right now. We would work to clarify the issues that are occurring and the impact that any problems that you're facing are having on your health and your wellbeing. Subsequently, we would discuss the best strategies and tools to be able to help address these and minimise their impact or manage their impact on you. So I'm also able to have these discussions with staff and with family members as well. The discussions can be business related. So for example, we might talk about the way that the business has been impacted by the lockdowns and closures, or will be impacted by the cessation of JobKeeper at the end of March, how you might be feeling about these events, and how you may be able to manage your responses to them. We may explore what you feel you're able to manage in relation to self-care, and if appropriate, what other services may be available to access that are relevant to your specific situation. It's important to know that these discussions are also likely to cross over into personal matters. This is kind of a natural thing during these discussions because there is a lot of overlap typically for business owners and especially small business owners in these arenas. I'm also available to talk you through having appropriate conversations with your staff around their mental health and wellbeing, and to debrief any challenging or distressing interactions you may have had with your staff or with customers that are sticking with you. Finally, I will be developing wellbeing tips and tricks around supporting day-to-day wellbeing in the workplace. And these are going to be posted to social media on a weekly basis. And I'll be delivering monthly webinars around pertinent wellbeing issues. So if you want to book a time with me for a confidential chat or discussion, you can do so directly through the Geelong Chamber's Wellbeing webpage. I've made session times available Monday to Thursday, 1 p.m. until 4. So you can actually just book in a time that suits you yourself. And you can also find my email address and telephone contact details on that webpage as well. Okay, so on to the Small Business Financial Counselling Service. Small business financial counsellors are there to work with small business owners who are having issues with meeting their financial commitments. So they can help you to negotiate payment plans and prioritise any debts that you might have, and also develop a money plan to be able to work through to get back to a place of financial stability. They're able to help you to identify any concessions, entitlements or grants that you could take advantage of at this time, and also can make appropriate referrals to accountants or organisations that can provide you with legal advice. This service is free and it's confidential, and the financial counsellors are very kind and very non-judgmental. So you're able to book in with them either through the 1300 number helpline or with myself. And we're actually able to book you in a time that suits you straight over the phone, and we can usually get you in within 48 hours. Next up is the Business Advisory Support Service. This is being delivered in conjunction with the Melbourne Innovation Centre. So the business advisors that are on staff can help you identify pain points or areas of improvement for within the business, help establish or review budgets and forecasting, provide guidance on business models and also planning for your business, marketing, including digital solutions, understanding your market and your customers, building business resilience, including disaster and recovery planning. This is also a free service, and you're able to call the helpline or myself to access this service. Okay, so to sum up, the health and well-being of yourselves is really essential, and not just for yourselves in the way that taking care of yourself is essential to everyone, but as business owners, to take care of the productivity, success and growth of a business and protect the contribution that your business makes to the community, to the economy. So by participating in the Small Business Wellbeing Program, I'm hoping that you'll all get a chance to learn a little bit about resilience and self-awareness and build self-awareness, develop a growth mindset, and we can also explore the link between wellbeing, workplace culture and successful business outcomes, and of course develop strategies to be able to help yourselves and into the future to be able to maintain your own sense of health and wellbeing.